Hey everybody, it's Johnny Two Face here, back with another reaction video. And this time I'm reacting to American Revolution, America's Favorite Year, 1776, Year of Crisis, by Epic History. Now yes, I know everyone's going to repeat that 1776 where the USA first became a independent and free country. Well, free from the British Empire anyway. But anyway, and I know there's a usual joke from the British side of things saying 1776 is the most important year in America's history. To us, the British, it was a Tuesday. But anyway, that's by the by, so you do that as you please. But I'm still interested to see how this plays out, because I've heard a few versions which I'm not sure which one's actually true. And I'm pretty sure this is as close as it's gonna. This is as thorough as it's gonna get. And of course, obviously, this series is done by one of the best history channels on YouTube, Epic History. So the usual disclaimer when I react to anything historical, if I don't show so much to what is considered a proper reaction, is probably obvious. I don't know much about the subject at hand, and if I do know anything, I'll most likely pause the video to give my input or ask any questions for any reason, which hopefully will be answered in the comments. With that being said, the link to the original video will be in the description down below. Please go and check out Epic History, hopefully support and hopefully subscribe to their channel. And don't waste so much of your time, so I'm going to full screen that. Oop, didn't mean to press play so quick without getting this up here. Make sure captions are on. And here we go. I thought all of London was afloat. Continental Army soldier.
The 22nd of August, 1776. 4,000 British soldiers in 75 flat-bottomed boats cross the Hudson and land at Gravesend Bay, Long Island. They are welcomed by a jubilant population of loyalists who bring food, supplies, and knowledge of the local terrain.
Okay.
Soon, this force will grow to 20,000. It's been nearly 2 months since General William Howe arrived off New York. Finally, in a trickle of transports and warships from Britain, Ireland, Germany, and the Carolinas, his full force has gathered. Howe now commands the largest expeditionary force Britain.
Of course, that'll make sense. The nearest British colonies, apart from the main 13, should have been obvious to me that they'll get some reinforcements from the Carolinas or the Caribbean.
Has ever assembled, and it's ready to be unleashed against the American rebels. His first target, Patriot forces holding a series of ridges around Brooklyn. If they can be defeated, Long Island will fall. New York will be defenseless, and the rebellion could be crushed.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they would try to attack this. This looks like a easily defensible ridge, and plenty of as I said, I'm not a military strategist expert on strategy, but there's loads of pinch points and loads of high altitudes which can provide the Patriots much cover from the high ground and, by the looks of it, cliff edges here. Part 5.
In New York City, General George Washington commands 20,000 men of the Continental Army. A few units, like the Delaware Blues and 1st Maryland Regiment, are well drilled and disciplined, but most are under-trained and ill-equipped. Desertion is rampant. The camps are riddled with typhus and dysentery. About a quarter of the army is sick or absent.
Wow.
At this critical juncture, Washington is racked with indecision. He fears the British landing on Long Island may be a diversion, and so holds back more than half his army to defend Manhattan and the Hudson River. His troops on Long Island are widely dispersed. 6,000 under Israel Putnam are in fortifications around Brooklyn. 3,000 more, under Generals Sullivan and Sterling, hold Forested Hills to Putnam's front.
Alright, Forested Hills.
They are spread over 4 miles and must guard the 3 main passes through the heights of Guan.
I suppose that could also be again, if you're the people defending these forested hilltops, if you're too widely dispersed, then your advantage becomes your disadvantage.
At dawn on the 27th of August, they are attacked by 5,000 redcoats. The crackle of muskets and roar of cannon fills the air as volleys are traded. It's the first time the Continentals have faced the enemy on open ground, and so far they are holding their own. But it is a trap.
Well, it does bear in mind that sometimes you can learn from your enemy. As if you, slightly off topic, if you watch the Napoleonic War series, you know that sometimes the enemy can learn, an army can learn from its enemy if they've been beaten by them enough times. But that's not always a guarantee, though.
As Sullivan sends troops from his centre to reinforce Sterling, he hears the sound of gunfire to his rear. To his horror, he realizes he has been outflanked. General Howe has used a 4th, lesser-known pass to swing round the American line with 10,000 troops.
I mean, this is where the Patriots are one of the battles they're really tested, because they're, again, I'm sorry if I sound biased because I am British / from the southwest of England, but as the narrator said, that a lot of these men are ill-trained and ill-equipped, and they're facing an experienced armed force. So again, it's a shame they didn't know about this pass, because then they could have really held off the redcoats. And again, judging by this hill design here, that could have been a really good pinch point to hold back the redcoats.
5,000 Hessians now charge forward in the centre.
Oh no, the Hessians.
These German troops have a fearsome reputation and terrify the Americans. In an instant, order and discipline are gone. It is a race to escape.
Oh dear, they're being trapped by the river.
Only the 1st Maryland and Delaware battalions, regarded as the Army's finest, hold their ranks. Outnumbered 10 to 1, the 1st Maryland mounts a desperate rearguard action and is cut to pieces. Washington, watching from Brooklyn, is appalled.
Good God, what brave fellows I must this day lose.
The disaster at Long Island is a major blow to the American cause. There are just 400 British casualties. The Americans lose more than 2,000, including Generals Sterling and Sullivan, both captured, though they are later exchanged on parole. The rest of the Continentals flee into Brooklyn, where their backs are now against the East River. An immediate assault by Howe might have ended the rebellion that very day. But fearing a second Bunker Hill and believing the Americans are trapped, he instead orders his men to begin digging siege lines. The following day, there is torrential rain. Washington's position is perilous. The only reason he's not been cut off by the British fleet is a steady northeasterly wind, which could change at any moment. Early on the 30th, under cover of darkness and a fortuitous morning fog, Washington evacuates his army across the East River to Manhattan. It is a silent,
crossing the
disciplined
Delaware.
and organized withdrawal. An American lieutenant recalls,
In the history of warfare,
Oh, of
I
course.
do
isn't it
not
crossing the
recollect a more
Delaware
fortunate
River?
retreat.
Washington has narrowly avoided catastrophe,
Or sorry, crossing the Hudson.
but the onslaught
Don't know why I keep saying
has only
Delaware.
just begun.
We learn by chess the habit of not being discouraged but by present bad appearances and hoping for a favourable change. The Morals of Chess by Benjamin Franklin. Okay.
September 1776. 2 weeks after his victory at Long Island, General Howe has paused his advance to offer peace terms. He earnestly hopes some form of reconciliation is still possible. In fact, he and his brother, Admiral Richard Howe, alongside their military commands, have been appointed peace commissioners, authorized by King and Parliament to issue pardons and restore peace to the colonies. But in a meeting with Congressmen John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Edward Rutledge, nothing is achieved.
Forces have been sent out and towns have been burnt. We cannot now expect happiness under the domination of Great Britain. All former attachments have been obliterated.
That's... Sorry to sound disrespectful, but that sounded like a very exaggerated accent. Sorry if that sounded disrespectful to the voice actor there.
About half of New York's population has already fled the city. Many who remain are loyalists. With British ships anchored in the Hudson and East Rivers, Washington decides he must abandon the city. On the 12th of September, he begins the evacuation. Troops and wagons are still leaving 3 days later when Howe strikes at Kips Bay.
Oh, I love the effects there.
4,000 British and German troops, supported by 80 naval guns, face little opposition. The Continental Army dissolves into a stream of fugitives as the British consolidate their bridgehead. Washington attempts to rally his men, but is ignored. The general snaps.
Are these the men with which I am to defend America?
Later that day, General Howe enters New York to a hero's welcome.
Thus this town, which these blustering rebels had taken such wonderful pains to fortify, was given up in 2 or 3 hours without any defense or the least appearance of a manly resistance.
The following day, the Americans repulse a British column advancing on Harlem Heights. A small reprieve, but as noted by Pastor Schukirk of New York,
the merry tones on drums and fifes had ceased.
I am worried almost to death with the retrograde motions of things. George Washington to his brother.
The sick, the aged, women and children, half naked, were taking refuge from the fire. The terror was increased by the horrid noise of the burning and falling houses, the confused voices of so many men, the shrieks and cries of the women and children.
On the hot and dry night of the 20th of September
Oh, the Great Fire of New
1776,
York.
fire consumes nearly 1/4 of New York City. It is not clear whether it was started by accident or on purpose, but it is a heavy blow to those still living in the city, especially with winter approaching.
Of course, also a hotbed for disease in wintertime.
In October, the British are on the move again. They sail up the East River with 12,000 men, looking to outflank the rebels. They land at Pell's Point. After a sharp fight, Washington is forced to withdraw to White Plains. 10 days later, Howe attacks again. Hessian troops of Colonel Raoul's regiment charge forward, driving the rebels back to Chatterton Hill. Here they hold firm, pouring heavy fire into the advancing columns. But eventually, British and Hessian numbers tell. The Delaware Blues form the rearguard as Washington's men beat a hasty retreat. The battle costs both sides around 200 casualties. Defeat after defeat has caused American morale to plummet. Almost half the army has deserted. More do so every day. Washington's leadership is called into question. Charles Lee, his second in command, who has just returned from South Carolina, writes,
He has that fatal indecision of mind, which in war is a much greater disqualification than stupidity, or even want of personal courage.
Ouch.
Many now look to Lee to save the cause. Especially after Washington blunders again. 15 miles south of White Plains, well behind the British lines, 2,800 Continentals hold a fort that bears Washington's name. Built to block British ships from entering the Hudson, it has proven totally ineffective. But Washington dithers, leaving the decision to withdraw to General Greene, who decides to keep the isolated garrison in place.
Wow.
On the morning of the 16th of November, Howe launches an assault on the fort with 8,000 men from all directions. The fighting lasts all morning, but by midday, the entire American garrison has been captured or killed. The British have inflicted yet another major blow on the rebel cause. The invasion of New York has been a stunning success for Howe. New Jersey will be next.
I hope this is the dark part of the night, which is generally just before the day. General Nathaniel Greene.
With British troops crossing the Hudson in force, Washington retreats across New Jersey to the Delaware River.
Ah, that's...
A pursuit begins. He has fewer than 6,000 men, but hopes to pick up new volunteers en route. Instead, he finds the population in a state of apathy.
probably wanting peace at any cost.
A thick cloud of darkness and gloom covered the land, and despair was seen in almost every countenance.
On the 30th of November, Howe issues a proclamation offering a pardon to all rebels who swear a new oath of allegiance to the crown. In the words of a New Jersey farmer writing to his family,
You can come down and receive protection, and return home without molestation on the part of the king's troops. And you best know the situation of the provincial army. He who stays out to the last will undoubtedly fare the worst.
Thousands in New Jersey and New York will eventually swear the oath. Among them, 2 former members of Congress and Richard Stockton, signatory of the Declaration of Independence. On the 1st of December 1776, enlistments expire for half of Washington's army. Without a second thought, 2,000 men leave for home. As snow begins to fall, Washington's depleted band retreats across the Delaware, destroying any boats they can't take with them. Philadelphia is evacuated in chaos. Congressman Robert Morris recalls,
Our people knew not the hardships and calamities of war when they so boldly dared Britain to arms. Every man was then a bold patriot, felt himself equal to the contest. But now, when we are fairly engaged, when death and ruin stare us in the face, and when nothing but the most intrepid courage can rescue us from contempt and disgrace, sorry I am to say it. Many of those who were foremost in noise now shrink, coward-like, from the danger, and are begging pardon without striking a blow.
for Howe, the campaign is won. He returns to New York, leaving 14,000 men to garrison New Jersey for the winter, and issue a growing list of pardons. He also sends General Clinton to retake Newport, Rhode Island, which he does without losing a man.
No casualties.
A few days later, Washington's second-in-command, General Lee, is staying in a tavern some distance from his troops, when he is surprised by British cavalry and captured.
Oh, wow.
Many of his 5,000 troops take the chance to desert. The ones who stay dutifully march with General Sullivan to join Washington on the Delaware. But even with these reinforcements, the Continental Army can barely muster 6,000 men. And enlistments for most of these soldiers will expire in just a couple of weeks. With the fate of America in the balance, Washington decides to risk everything on a bold strike.
These are times that will try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in his crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands in it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Thomas Paine.
Washington's plan of attack is bold and complex. 3 columns will cross the freezing Delaware River at night at 3 separate points and attack the Hessian garrison at Trenton before dawn. Ewing and Cadwalader will lead 2 of the columns in diversionary attacks on Assunpink Creek Bridge and Bordentown, while Washington's main column, 2,400 strong, crosses upriver, splits into 2 wings, and surrounds the town from west and north. The operation begins at dusk on the 25th of December, Christmas Day. The Delaware is fast-moving, clogged with ice, and nearly 300 yards wide. Ferrying men, guns, and horses across it, in the dark, in flat-bottomed boats, amid hail and snow, is an act of stunning audacity. Thanks to experienced oarsmen among the Pennsylvania militia and artillery companies, the crossing is completed without disaster. But Washington's column arrives on the far bank 3 hours behind schedule, while Ewing and Cadwallader both abort their missions.
Wow.
Washington decides to push on regardless. The weather is so bad, he reasons, the enemy will surely not expect an attack. His troops split into 2 columns as planned and begin their advance. They make slow progress through the blizzard, but the men remain in good order and are determined. Trenton is garrisoned by 1,400 Hessian soldiers under Colonel Rowell. He's been warned about an imminent attack, but after a skirmish with some American militia on Christmas Day, believes that threat to have passed. So that night, amidst a blizzard on Christmas, his guard is down. Shortly after dawn, Washington attacks. Greene's men drive Hessian outposts back into town. As the garrison forms up in the streets, Knox positions his cannon to fire on them. Then Sullivan's men charge into the town with bayonets fixed. They seize the Assunpink Creek Bridge. Rowell is mortally wounded, attempting to organize a counterattack. It's all over in less than an hour. The Hessians lose 100 killed and wounded and 900 captured. The Americans, just 5 wounded.
Wow.
It is a stunning and much needed victory. As the Hessian prisoners are marched back to Philadelphia, morale soars in Washington's army. But the campaign is not done yet. Howe, learning of the disaster, sends General Cornwallis and 8,000 men to hunt down and destroy Washington's army. With enlistments on the verge of expiring, Washington makes an appeal to the army.
My brave fellows, you have done all I asked you to do, and more than could be reasonably expected. But your country is at stake. Your wives, your houses, and all that you hold dear. You have worn yourselves out with fatigues and hardships, but we know not how to spare you. If you will consent to stay 1 month longer, you will render that service to the cause of liberty and to your country which you can probably never do under any other circumstance.
His stirring words, and a bounty worth 2 months' pay, convince almost all the troops to stay.
Wow. It's one hell of a speech.
Leaving 1,200 men to hold Princeton, Cornwallis advances on Trenton. His march is slowed by rebel riflemen and a sudden thaw which turns the roads to mud. When he arrives, he finds the rebels entrenched behind Assunpink Creek. Probing attacks are defeated and cost 300 British casualties. With darkness approaching, Cornwallis decides to wait until morning to launch a full-scale attack. This is just what Washington wants. Overnight, his men march north in silence through rugged country to attack the garrison at Princeton.
Oh, diversion.
They arrive at the perfect moment, just as the British are setting off to join Cornwallis. They form line just in time to meet the American attack. There is sharp fighting. At first, the British have the better of it. Then, Washington charges into the fray. An American officer witnesses the moment.
I shall never forget what I felt when I saw him brave all the dangers of the field, and his important life hanging as it were by a single hair, with 1,000 deaths flying around him.
Outnumbered, under heavy fire, the British fall back in disorder. They have suffered around 400 casualties. The Americans lose fewer than 100 men. Princeton is another stunning victory for the Americans. Perhaps Washington's greatest operational flourish. But the Continental Army is exhausted, low on supplies, and surrounded by dangers. Washington is persuaded not to risk more. He makes for Morristown to find safe winter quarters. The battles of Trenton and Princeton are neither large nor particularly costly for the British. They are, however, desperately needed rays of hope in the Patriots' darkest hour. What's more, as the Continental Army continues to prove its mettle against the British, foreign observers are taking notice.
Oh, they're bound to.
In the royal courts of France and Spain, there are many who would delight to see their old British rival humiliated and their own defeats avenged. The rebellion in Britain's American colonies is about to become a global war.
Well, it's nothing new. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So, again, it's a simple... I'd say it was a respected strategy, really. You know, you can't really be mad at using. You can't really be mad at the Americans using Britain's European enemies against them. It's a old tactic going back centuries. So fair enough to the Americans getting the Britain's European enemies, or should I say rivals, to join in, because you can easily tell Britain's European rivals have been itching to get back at Britain for numerous defeats. But anyway,
do you want to be first to watch Epic History's biggest series ever? We're finally covering the epic saga of World...
Anyway, that'll do it. That's nearly enough spoilers. So yeah, this has been another great, interesting video by Epic History, and yes, I will be reacting to the World War II videos that Epic History do, so not much more I can say on the matter. So again, thanks to Epic History for another great video and well put together video. So that'll do it. If you like this reaction, please like and hopefully subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.